Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of John's never-ending list of random things to do. For today's video, I will be working on modding the front side markers and turn signal for a 1985 Toyota Celica Supra. Before performing any mods, when the light switch is on the number 2 position, only these two lights will be turned on. When the turn signal is applied, only this light flashes. Now if the lights switch off, applying the turn signal will make only this light flash. And now that you understand the original characteristics of the turn signal and sight markers, we can go ahead and make these mods. But before we begin, I'd like to thank Mark, David, and the Phoenix from the Celica Supra forums. Some of these mods were their ideas. We'll be going over these mods in this order. To begin, remove these two screws. In my case, I'm missing one. Now pull it forward to pop it out of the bearing. Then go ahead and disconnect the harness here. Now we can perform mod number 1, which is probably the easiest to do. All you need to do is locate the white negative wire from the sight marker here. Then cut it off at this point. Next, you'll want to locate the green wire with the yellow stripe. It should be this wire here. Now you don't want to cut this wire. All you want to do is strip the insulation back just a little bit. Now go ahead and strip the insulation off of the white wire and connect it directly to the green wire with the yellow stripe. And that's all there is to modification number 1. Make sure you made a solid connection, then insulate your wires. Now let's check out the characteristics to this mod. This is what it looks like with the parking lights on. You're probably thinking, nothing changed, but watch what happens when we turn on the turn signal. The two lights are flashing alternately. Now let's see what happens when the light switch is off and only the turn signal is applied. Both lights are flashing at the same time. Now let's get into mod number 2. We're going to replace the 1156 bulb with the 1157 bulb. To do so, you'll have to replace the socket completely with one of these here. I'll leave a link to this item in the video description below. Or you can use the same socket and bulbs David used. And that's completely up to you as the end user. This socket here should fit with no modifications required. I did run into one small issue with this socket. When I attempted to install the bulb, it didn't want to fit into the socket. Now don't jump to conclusions and think I have a cheap light bulb, because it fits perfectly in one of these OEM brake light sockets. Now is this due to bad quality control, or is it just my luck? I think it's just my luck. But this should be an easy fix. Using a flathead screwdriver, I just wedged it in here like so, then twisted it counterclockwise, and it pried the little socket up just a bit. Now turning the socket 180 degrees, I wedged the flathead screwdriver in here like so, and pried the socket far enough to grip it and pull it apart. Now we can get a better look at what's happening. The two pieces aren't clearing right here. And if we flip it 180 degrees, we're having the same issue on the other side. To fix this issue, I took out a small file and filed down both sides. There we go, it's fitting a lot better. Now reinsert the wires and put the socket back together. On the 1157 bulbs, there are two dimples. One is high and one is low. Using the high side dimple as our reference point, on the right side, if you follow it down, the corresponding contact is for the high wattage filament. And the one on the left side is for the low wattage filament. You're probably wondering, why do I need to know this? That's because my second socket here came with the wires in the reverse order. If you're using the sockets David used, you wouldn't run into this issue. But since I'm using these sockets, it should be an easy fix. A simple way to find out where your wires are is to align the correct dimples with the slot on the socket. Then look at the contact right below the contact on the light bulb. You'll want to remember the high wattage side on the light bulb was on the right side, and my green wire with the yellow stripe is on the left side. And if you're still wondering, why does this matter? That's because it's probably best to have both light sockets with matching wire configurations. To begin this fix, all you need to do is hold on to one of these wires and pull it back as far as possible. Then use a flathead and press the side you're pulling further in. This trick should release the tab on the other side so you can pry it out. Now if that piece loose, simply pull it out and flip it at 180 degrees Then reinstall it at an angle with one tab going in first. From here, locate the wire nearest to the tab you inserted first, then give it a pull, and the piece should just fall right into place. Alright, that should resolve the issues with these sockets, so we can get back to modification number 2. Go ahead and undo the installations. Then locate the white wire on the socket and snip it off. Next, locate the green wire with the yellow stripe, then snip it off. You'll want to make sure you've left enough wire for you to work with, then strip off the insulation like so. Now we can start to connect these wires. The white wire on the socket connects directly to the white wire on the harness. The green wire with the yellow stripe from the socket is from a high wattage filament. It's connected directly to the green with yellow wire on the wire harness side. And the last wire for the low wattage filament is connected directly to the solid green wire. Instead of cutting the wire, I pulled the insulation back just a bit, then made the connection here. You'll want to make sure your connections are solid, then insulate them. Now let's go ahead and test out this modification. So now with the light switch on the number 2 position, all of these lights are turned on. Applying the turn signal will make this light go bright dim, bright dim. Now let's turn the light switch back to the 0 position and only apply the turn signal. You'll see that only this light flashes. And that's all there is to mod number 2. So let's go ahead and get into modification number 3. This is a combo of mod 1 and 2 put together. Assuming you already changed the light socket to accept a bulb with dual filaments, simply look for the white wire with the black stripe that's coming directly from your site marker. Then go ahead and snip it off. Strip off a piece of the insulation. And you'll want to connect it directly to the green wire with the yellow stripe on the harness side. Make sure your connections are solid, then insulate them. Now let's test this out. So with the light switch on the number 2 position, all of these lights are lit. But watch what happens when we apply the turn signal. The side light flashes alternately with the front, while the front flashes bright dim, bright dim. Turning the light switch off and applying only the turn signal will make these 2 lights flash. Alright, now it's time to get into mod number 4. A dual light bulb filament socket should have been installed, and all of your ground wires are connected together like so. The solid green wire and the green wire with the yellow stripes are loose. You will need 2 diodes and one 30 ohm 5 watt resistor. For the connections, the green wire with the yellow stripe on the harness side is connected directly to the high filament wattage wire. I went on ahead and wrapped one side of the diode around a screw. This is the side of the diode that does not have the white band. I did this so I'll have a hook. Before making any connections, it's probably best to put in your heat shrink first. Now put the 2 wires together and put your diode with the hook over them. Then crimp the hook over the wires. This will ensure nothing is moving while you're soldering the pieces together. Once that's done, move the heat shrink over and shrink it down. Next we have our diode and 30 ohm resistor. These 2 will be connected directly to the solid green wire. And their orientation doesn't really matter. The resistor can come first and then the diode, or the diode and then the resistor. You'll just want to make sure the side with the white band is connected to the wire leading to the side marker in the end. As a reminder, insert your heat shrink before making any connections. Now connect the solid green wire from the harness side to the low wattage filament wire. Make sure you didn't forget your resistor. Then crimp the 2 pieces like so and hit it with solder. Next we're going to connect the diode to the resistor. Make sure it is not the end with the white band. Twist the 2 pieces together like so. Crimp them together so they're not moving while you're hitting it with solder. With my connection here, both ends of the diode will meet here, and both of those ends have the white band. But before connecting them, I'll go ahead and insert the heat shrinks. Next I twist the 2 pieces here together like so. Applied some solder, then shrunk the heat shrinks down. All that's left is one last connection, but before making that connection, I'm going to insert my heat shrink here. And with that in place, I'll go ahead and make this last connection and solder the pieces together. Let's not forget to move the heat shrink over and shrink it down to size. I went on ahead and applied some extra electrical tape for extra insulation. Now make sure you've packed everything tightly and let's test this piece out. For the installation, reconnect the harness like so. Then pop in your corner light into its bearing. Unfortunately, at this point, since I've been installing and removing my corner lights multiple times, my bearing finally broke. To remove the bearing, I just used the flathead and pried it out this way. If you have a 3D printer, you can print your own pieces, but if you're like me and you don't have access to a 3D printer, check out 3dgem.com. They're currently printing these pieces for the Mark II Supra, and if you wanted to, you can fully customize your items. Thanks to 3dgem.com, I was able to get my hands on these pieces. The bearing was very easy to install, just press it in and it slides right in. Now you may be wondering, what is this piece here? It actually sits here on the back side of the corner lights, and to prevent it from falling off while trying to install the lights, press the screws through the hose, then place it onto the screws like so. But you want to make sure the screws aren't sticking out so far, so back it out a bit. Alright, so everything's looking good. Let's go ahead and install this. Press the light into the bearing, then screw it down to secure it. Now the bracket on the side here made a big difference. I wasn't sitting there guessing how far to put in the screw. There was an actual stopping point, and I don't have to worry too much about screwing it too tight to break the lens here. Now with that installed, let's check out the results for mod number 4. Putting the light switch in the number 2 position will make these lights light up. When the turn signal is applied, these lights will go bright dim, bright dim. Turning the light switch off and only applying the turn signal will make these lights flash. And that's all there is to it to mod number 4. I hope some of you found this video helpful. If you did and you liked it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys for the next random project.